Hello, everybody. I am Jamie Lynn, and welcome back to the Pink Pill. I have a very special guest with you today. You guys will most likely be familiar with him. He's a frequent on the podcast scene and speaker, and also he has a men's coaching program as well. Please welcome Michael Sartain, everybody.
Hey, I made it. This is it. I was like, what is the bucket list? I was like, Rogan? Fuck that. I want to go on Pink Pill podcast.
Now you can die a happy man.
For sure, man.
Okay.
I said no to Lex Friedman so I could come on this. That's what I want to do.
Well, I feel very special. I know you're a very busy guy. You're traveling and doing a lot of speaking yourself. You've hit some. I've seen you did you have one with Destiny too? I can't remember. Okay.
So Destiny and I have done, we've done 3 together.
Okay.
So one time we were on opposite sides of a debate. Then we did one where we're on the same side of the debate. I kind of have like he and I kind of have the same issue where this Russia-Ukraine thing has gotten political for no fucking reason. And so we both kind of see it as how ridiculous it's getting. So we did a debate where we were on the same side. Then we did a debate 2 days ago where I don't really understand what the debate was. We were kind of both lost. It was interesting with the Crucible. It was fun. It was a fun time just getting to see Steven again. But a lot of times, the thing about Destiny is we don't always agree on a lot of stuff, but I do think he's a better debater than me. So I try to watch as much of his stuff as I can, even though I don't think he's,
he just went on saying that he's out of the red pill loop.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, he's like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I'm out.
The thing is, it kind of feels like when a wrestler retires, he's retired till you send him some more money. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Like,
why did he bounce?
I don't even know that he bounced. I mean, he was just on a show with me doing red pill stuff like 48 hours ago. Like, I don't know about bouncing.
He had a whole video saying that he was leaving this zone.
So here's one of the issues, right? I have a problem where I keep getting sucked into debates that don't help my business, right? And so part of me is like, I want to have debates so I'm a U.S. military officer. When people want to get into debates about war, I actually want to have that debate, but it has nothing to do with my business. And so the people, my sales team and the other execs are like, well, do we need another flat earth debate? Does that really help us? So I get kind of sucked into these things. I don't know that necessarily him, like obviously I'll give you the main issue. It's Nick F. I'm not going to say his name because I'm not going to get you in trouble, but there's a guy he debates that's a white nationalist and they go back and forth. They used to be close friends. They don't like each other very much anymore. They don't get along. And one of the problems is on the one hand, Nick will debate the guy, right? And then, he'll maybe win or lose the debate. It doesn't matter. The other guy, Nick's, the white nationalist, his audience doesn't seem to change their mind. And Nick is now platforming a guy spreading a message that maybe he doesn't want spread. I'm sorry, Destiny is now platforming the guy and spreading a message that maybe he doesn't want spread. And so it just gets into one of these things where, and I'll tell you one other thing, you don't want to lose one of these debates. And so for me, when I was going up against the same Nick guy, I did probably 38 hours of study just for a 2-hour podcast.
Debates are really challenging. I find myself in the same, like a very similar situation, and I'm not trying to get into like a debate thing.
Yeah. I love them. I absolutely love them. Yeah. I love them too much. Like the problem is I need to focus more on my business. So my debates now generally are cold approach versus social circle, and Destiny doesn't give a shit about that. So we're never going to have a debate on that. Also, I agree that a lot of stuff in red pill is misogynistic. So he and I don't disagree on hardly any of those things. He and I, the only main disagreement we have is that the rate or the amount to which evolutionary psychology affects human behavior and the amount to which status affects whether or not a man has more sexual partners as opposed to just general like going out there and meeting women. So we have these are such small things to debate. They're not really very controversial, but he's a little bit more politically progressive than I am. So we have these debates when it comes to that.
Well, I know that you and I kind of touched base before this, and I've been on your show, I've been on Rolo's show before. Obviously, I have Pink Pill, which kind of it's challenging to some of those ideas and stuff like that. So thanks for being here.
Of course.
And I want to have a focus for today. I touched base with you beforehand. I was like, what should we talk about?
Yeah.
And so I went down the Logan Paul rabbit hole.
Yes.
I talked about that. I wanted to ask you about Island Boys too, because that kind of opened that up to me too. And then Dr. David Buss, actually. Did you see his podcast with Joe Rogan?
Yeah. That was a couple months ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting because he totally retracted what he initially said about the dual mating strategy for women.
So it's dual mating strategy versus mate switching strategy.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I mean, totally. He says he goes, I don't see as much hypothesis in it. So for me, I think it's a blend of the two. I think it's about 15% dual mating strategy and 85% mate switching strategy.
So for those that don't know, can you break that down a little bit so they know what we're talking about?
So Dr. David Buss, who I think is the most important psychologist in the world.
He's an evolutionary psychologist.
He's an evolutionary psychologist. So he has a PhD from Harvard. He taught at Berkeley for a while. He is currently the head of the Buss Labs at the University of Texas at Austin. Hook 'em horns. I'm a Longhorn. Dr. Buss and I, we've corresponded a few times. He's been on my podcast. I've read every single one of his books, and I think he gets it right more than anyone else. And also, I think evolutionary psychology is the most underrated player in the league. It's the guy nobody knows about. It's the Pablo Bancaro of the fucking NBA. Nobody knows who he is, but the guy's fucking awesome. It's like that kind of shit. So he's been teaching this stuff since the 1970s. And one of the things that was controversial is that a lot of times when he does these studies, a lot of things that humans believe to be cultural turns out they aren't cultural. He does this 37 culture study in 1989. He does several versions of it, but the culture basically the 37 culture study just completely disproves that beauty is cultural. It's not. Beauty. They look at the signs of beauty in all these 37 cultures that have nothing to do with each other, and they're the same signs of beauty from men to women. In all 37 cultures, women are more interested in a man's ability to procure resources.
I actually learned that in social psychology.
Yeah.
For women, they look at the triangle, men look at symmetry and hip to waist ratio. So I actually agree with a lot of his points. But when he brought up the dual mating strategy, and I thought that was really interesting because it actually kind of we differed on that, I think. And so when he changed his mind on that.
So it wasn't him. I believe it was Trivers. I can't remember.
There was a female psychologist that had done a study that looked at these things long term.
Yeah, it may have been Lita Cosmides. I forgot who it was, but you're right. So what happened was the strategy was, why is it that women would cheat?
Exactly.
And so what they would look at, they would say, well, she would marry the accountant while secretly sleeping with the bartender.
Right.
And that was the idea.
Because the evolutionary, the Chad would be more genetically she would want to mate with this guy, but she wants the rich guy to fund her.
Yes. Okay. So the idea with the mate switching strategy is that the proclivities are still there, but she doesn't act on them. So basically the idea is it doesn't make any sense for her to fall in love with one of the things they found is that when women cheat in a relationship, 83% of the time they fall in love with their affair partner. Well, that doesn't make sense if their affair partner is a bartender, right? Does that make sense? That's terrible. From her survivalistic characteristics, for her to go down several levels as far as income to leave the accountant boyfriend to be with the bartender made no sense. So from Dr. Buss's standpoint, he started looking for these different things and it's a mate switching strategy. And so here were the reasons why he came up with the study. Number one, when women cheated in a relationship, 78% of the time they reported lower satisfaction in the marriage. When men cheated in a relationship, it was zero. It was the same.
Yeah. So, and we actually agree on that. Yes, we do agree on that. But I think you have to kind of take a look at the reason why women cheat, because women are cheating because they're dissatisfied in the marriage, and the number one reason they report dissatisfaction is not enough help in the home.
Sure.
And that is really, that's not something that a lot of, I don't even know how to kind of categorize this, but I just kind of say red pill. They don't talk about, because they talk about a woman's place being in the home and giving her the primary responsibility in the home and doing all these duties, and them not helping, and then she needs to give them enthusiastic sex. And yet that's the reason why they're leaving or cheating on their partners is because they're not fulfilling that role. So I think it's something that's important to consider and take a look at. Yeah.
So the second part to what you were saying, the disproving part, was the idea that, like I said before, 83% of the time when a woman cheated, she would fall in love with her affair partner, and 29% of the time it would happen for men, which means that men and women would cheat for different reasons. And like you said, it was a dissatisfaction in the marriage. But the other statistic that actually comes from divorce attorneys, it didn't come from Dr. Buss, was the concept that it was 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by women, right? So this goes to what your point is. They're dissatisfied for some reason. Now, the reason why that is, if she's saying, I don't get enough help in the house, the question comes then, is he working 50 hours, 60, 70 hours a week, providing 100% of the income, and he's tired when he gets home? Can there be a balance where he isn't going to be able to help you in the house? Or is he just some kind of bum?
What they're actually showing is this, that both people are working. See, the dissatisfaction comes because it's not just really a stay-at-home mom kind of situation. Okay. It's a woman actually working. So she's not, so they call it the second shift, actually. It's a psychological term, and I learned that in social psychology many moons ago. And it's talking about women, how they are, because most women are actually working. Most women aren't adhering to this
Sure.
traditional
Yeah.
place. They don't have the opportunity to really do that. Most
Yes.
women don't. So most women are working. So they're not only they're working either maybe a little less or just as much as their male partners, and then they're coming home and they're working some more, and they're fatigued and they're tired and they're stressed. And
Yeah, in
yet
that case, for sure.
So that is why that's happening.
But the other issue is, so 83%, if you were to look at reasons why people get divorced, one of the top 3 reasons is for financial reasons, right? Especially one of a high predictor of divorce is if a woman starts during the marriage, during some point in the marriage, to make more money than her male partner. That is a high likelihood of divorce. And what will happen is about 83%, they surveyed these women who were working, that were married, and they said, "What would you have preferred to be a stay-at-home mom?" And 83% of them said yes. That's 1.5 standard deviations. That is a massive number. So what's happened for a lot of these women is like, that's part of the dissatisfaction. I wish that I had married someone that was able to make enough money so that I could stay at home and be a caretaker for these children, right? That doesn't mean every woman wants that, but 83% of women who are working said they did.
So I actually agree with that. Okay, I think most women would prefer to work less. Let me say that. I think that they are not in positions where they can actually, where they have that luxury. And so what they've had to do is they've had to step in, do more to be a provider for the home. And then they're doing the child rearing, the majority of the household responsibility. And then they're getting, villainized for wanting to leave their partners. The thing is that they're carrying more of a workload, and they're also bearing a financial responsibility. That's an argument that I don't hear that often.
Yeah. So part of the reason why is, in that case, then you're talking about men who are failing. Right.
I'm talking about an argument that I hear in the manosphere.
Sure.
That is being it's being misrepresented by women.
I agree with you. I just I'm not a lobbyist for the manosphere. I totally understand.
I know. I'm not saying that you are, but you're here
for sure,
and it's something that I see get circled around.
Let's put the needles in Michael. Let's do it.
So I thought I'd talk about it.
You can't. So I'll play devil's advocate from the manosphere thing. You're correct. So what'll happen is, hold on, Lana, if you want to turn these microphones off real quick, because you can hear the fan. See those 2 microphones in front of me? They're on, and that's why we can hear the fans, because these 2 are on. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Got it. That's perfect. So going back to what you're saying, when it comes to these men who are not, you were saying before, there seems to be this proclivity, especially for men who don't have a lot of experience with women or have a bad experience with women, to blame women for everything.
Yeah.
So what'll happen is there is a problem. There's a mismatch, and the mismatch tends to be the woman's fault in their eyes. I totally agree with you. And by the way, Rolo does too. Like, you can't keep saying that it's always the woman's fault for all of these situations, because there's no way evolutionarily we could come up as a species where one person is like one. The reason why men and women are always going to be in this battle of push and pull is because if one series dominated the other one, then you wouldn't have a population. You have to have an ability to
balance.
There has to be, at some point, you have to find some level of equilibrium. What's happened, though, is because we got further and further away from a survival scenario, the equilibrium equals more women working. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Because there was a point at which, like, when we're in an agrarian society, like the 1850s, there's things men have to do. There's just, because they're bigger and stronger, because they have to be able to provision and protect the tribe. There's things men had to do and women had to do because we were living hand to mouth. Today, because you can own a Glock and you can live in a high rise, right? And you can make $300,000 a year as a single woman.
Sure.
You may want, and you not needing these men causes there to be this imbalance where 68% of college graduates are female now. And so you have a bunch of men who are less educated, who are just not, so their families don't want them. They're not wanted by the opposite sex. They're not being educated. They're just not finding a place in the workforce either. And so you have these men who are like frustrated and they don't know where to go and don't know who to blame. And so when you end up in that situation, you end up with all these women who are like, they don't need men, but then you go look at the cohort of these women over the age of 40 and they're deeply unhappy because they've been told don't have children, or divorce is a victory, or eat, pray, love.
I don't think that's what's happening, Michael. I don't. Like, I hear that being preached on the manosphere. That's not actually
No, forget manosphere. Cardi B. Like, just watch television.
Okay, that is not, you can't
watch the Barbie movie.
But you can't, I don't think I can stomach it.
But the Barbie movie is the Barbie movie is the number one movie in America.
You can't take those kinds of things. Okay, just because it's the number one movie doesn't mean that it's reflective of the female gender.
No, it's reflective of what is being preached to the female gender.
Fair enough. Okay, that is fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think that, like, when you look at, like, I lost my train of thought. I was going somewhere with it. when you go back to like hypergamy, right?
Yeah.
Where you know, you're hearing things like women date across and only up,
Yes.
right? That is not actually what's going on. Now, it might be ideal. It might be what if you poll somebody they would report, right? But what reporting looks like doesn't actually isn't actually reflective of what plays out. These are what I would like to see happen.
I think if it's big enough, it does. So, like for instance, if you take all of Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge,
look at all these bottle girls out here that are taking care of their men. I'm sorry, that totally contradicts hypergamy.
It doesn't contradict hypergamy.
Of course it does.
But those men have something going for them. It's just not money.
No.
It's just not money.
Okay. If hypergamy, I was under the understanding that it meant she's going to date her equal or above her equal. So if he's not bringing in that money, then how is he her equal?
So he's taller than her, he's stronger than her, he's good looking in her mind.
Then wouldn't that just be like a Chad?
Yeah, but a Chad is also above as far as hypergamy is concerned. So here's the thing. When it comes to that, the reason why we believe what we believe is because when you look at Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, the top 10% of the top 10% of men on Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge are getting 63% of the right swipes. The top 20% of men are getting 83% of the right swipes.
That's because women are more selective and a guy will just bang anything.
Right, no, but it doesn't matter.
But that's not, it does matter. Context matters.
What I'm saying is there should be a normal distribution then. If women are selective, there still should be a normal distribution. There is no normal distribution. Women find 80% of men to be unattractive. That's not selective. That's just like to the point of like delusion. 80% of men can't be unattractive.
Here's something that I don't hear people say. That is not actually, I don't think that that's really representative of how they're picking. Look, when a woman is, let's say she's online, okay, and she's swiping, there are things that she has to consider that a man doesn't. For example, if I actually meet up with this person, is he going to sexually harass me? Is he going to give me a dick pic? Am I going to be safe with him? She's taking that into account, which is going to not make it so equally distribute. Like a guy doesn't ever have to consider that. I don't want to say ever, but like that influences how she's picking and how she's swiping.
For sure. But she's still picking the wealthier, good-looking guy who still may send her a dick pic and still may sexually harass her. It doesn't change anything. She's only picking because of clear signs of status that she can see, which then proves hypergamy. That's the reason. If there was no hypergamy, you would see a normal distribution. For instance, for men, the top 43% of rights, the top 63% of right swipes go to the top 43% of men. Remember, top 63% of right swipes go to the top 10% of women, but the top 43% of men, or I'm sorry, the other way. Top 10% of men, the top 43% of women. So that means men see hot women as hot, medium women as medium, and unattractive women as unattractive, because men are selective. They're not as selective as women, but they are selective. When it comes to women, it's 80% of men they find unattractive. And then when these women date these men at the top, then they complain he is a narcissist because he has so many options with women. But the problem is that's the way women stratify men. You are unattractive or you are garbage. And this is what I found personally. My clients, if they don't do things that make them relevant and competent, it's not that they're like 50% solution. They're either at 100% solution to women or they're fucking zero. They have no chance at all. And so that's the reason why. And it's not because women are inherently delusional. It's just Dunbar's number. Human beings are made to be around 150 people, but we're around 150 million people, and because we can see them all on social media. And so we have this problem of choice. It's every guy with the Ferrari and the six-pack who's cute and has a picture on the beach with his girlfriend. Like, women are comparing themselves or their relationships to every one of those ones that they see, and then they look at the men that are in their life, and those men are always going to fall short. There's no way that they're not going to fall short. Men do the same thing, but men are less selective, and men find more women to be attractive as a total population of women than women find men to be attractive. And so because of that, you end up with this situation where, like, when I was 22, I couldn't find a date, and now I'm 45 and I'm successful, and like my girlfriend's incredible, but like before that I couldn't believe how many more women wanted to date me when I was 45 and I made money. It was crazy. Like, so from my standpoint, I can't refuse to not believe hypergamy is real.
Like, look, I'm not saying that it's inherently false or that there isn't some value or some truth to it, but it's an oversimplification of how women pick.
No, it's an oversimplification if it's black or white. It's a statistic. Like, I didn't say 100% of men.
It's not all about stats and facts. Like, I know that you guys are real heavy on that, but it's not. It's way more. That's way more goes into it than that. And I think that there are other things that you guys should at least consider as far as how women pick. Because look, regardless of whether the guy is tall, broke, or whatever, there are a lot of women out here taking care of their men.
Yes, and those men are good looking.
But not all of them.
They're good looking, or they're funny, or they're drug dealers, or they're fucking talented.
If that's the case, Michael.
Yes.
Then guys do the exact same thing.
No one's complaining or saying that they don't.
Then guys are hypergamous as well. I could use that same. No, I could use that same logic and say guys are also hypergamous.
It's gyno. I forgot what it's called. It's not hypergamous. It's hypogynous. I think that's what the time is. No,
for
of course.
guys, is that what it's called?
Yeah, for sure. Because what'll happen is as men become wealthier, the difference in age between them and their partner actually increases. Do you know this? There's studies that show this. So like as men get older, this is from Inuit Indians and this is Russian men, European men, American men. As men become wealthier and more high status, the difference between them and their wives' age actually increases. They get younger and younger women. So the idea of a man growing older with a woman, they get into their 40s, he divorces her and then gets another woman, that would be the thing that you're talking about. I'm not saying men don't do that. Of course they do. They do. But the thing is, men are hardly filing for divorce. If 20% of divorces are filed by men and 80% are filed by women, men are in a situation where, like, are they more likely to cheat? Yes, but they're less likely to leave their wife. And they're less likely to, like, leave their family. Far less likely to leave their family than women are.
I just see so many contradictions to hypergamy, and you did give some. Look, you gave some good examples of different ways to view hypergamy, right? Than just financially, which is helpful for me.
Yeah.
But I do think that there are other, like these stats that are reporting, they're mainly getting from Tinder.
No. These are different ones. Dr. Buss, he does the different one. The Tinder one, the reason why we use the Tinder one is because it's the biggest one. The Tinder one is millions and millions of people.
Right. And so it's relevant. But that is the one that Fresh and Fit referenced that one. Like I've heard other people in the manosphere reference that stat. That's why I brought that up, because it was used. So I'm using that stat so that the viewers have a sense for why this is happening and how these things are, because the framework is important for me to create. Okay. Look, women. This is not a reflection of hypergamy because women are swiping more. There are other things that you have to take into account, okay? And that could be, if a woman goes out with a guy, she's got to worry about her safety. That's not something that a guy has to consider. So that's not just about hypergamy. That's about safety.
Right,
and so these kinds of things influence those stats.
Right, but when she goes out with the guy with the Lambo and who's really good looking, she also has to worry about her safety, but she doesn't care because he's good looking.
So I think that, so on to that point,
she takes Molly and does coke and goes to Ibiza with the good-looking guy. She goes to Dubai with the good-looking guy.
You're gonna like this, okay? Yes, when there is incentives, you're more likely to excuse that behavior, right? You're more likely to justify it.
Burning Man is fucking dangerous. Do you know how many girls went to Burning Man with fucking strangers and stayed in their RV?
Look, I agree, Michael, but still, what I'm trying to do, like, I agree with a lot of your points, actually, and I don't disagree with Red Pill entirely. Yeah. But there are these little falsehoods and these little things that I think
here's where we can find a balance. When I say 83% of the time women fall in love with their affair partners, the part we forget is that 17% of the time they don't. 17% of the time they were just looking to fuck a hot guy. That's the part you're missing. Like when you're saying,
I'm not missing that part.
I'm sorry. I'm not saying you're not missing it. That's the part that's being missed. It's like statistics does count for everyone. The part when I say 80% or 80% of men are deemed unattractive on Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, there are women who find those men attractive.
There's value in statistics, but there's value in how you measure it and how you pull the stats. Because look, I can find anybody anywhere to tell me to make anything valid. I literally can't.
It would be hard to find.
It's not. No, it's really not. You can go to any court. You can go to any court and find an expert on this that skews the facts this way and says this is why this looks this way.
So here's the thing: when we exceed one standard deviation, so it's going to be very difficult for you to find a study that shows most men file for divorce when 80% of divorces are filed by women.
I'm talking about something generally, as far as how stats, how it's not as reliable as.
Totally agree. So
that's the point that I'm making. I'm not saying that they don't have value.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're useless, but what I am saying is that they are not everything. And that if you hear stats, my audience, you do need to question it. And you do need to consider the source for how they're pulling the stats. Tinder, probably not the place you want to pull your stats from.
So let's do a different one. So, well, actually, no, I think Tinder is actually a good place.
It's actually not. And if you go back to this earlier clip and watch why it's not a good place to pull it from,
okay, so listen.
I agree with her. Thanks.
Right, it's not a.
I agree with her.
It's not a perfect place to pull stats from, but
that's the dumbest place to pull stats from.
Why would it be dumb? Women are women are describing what they find attractive.
Look, it's not dumb, but But here are the vulnerabilities with that. Okay, it's a self-report. Also, here's
it's anonymous. It's anonymous. It's not self-report. It's anonymous.
It is. No, it might be anonymous, but it's still a self-report. It's saying I do this, I do this. That is a self-report. That is how you're pulling stats. It might be anonymous, but anonymous can still be a self-report.
No. What you're talking about is there's a flaw in self-reporting, and that people will say what they want you to think instead of what they actually think. There's no enough
No,
when
that's
you're having
not what I'm
anonymous
saying.
self-reporting.
I'm not. I didn't make that connection.
Okay, so let's do a completely different one. Institute for Family Studies does one study, and they show that if a woman has been with more than 20 men, she has about a 17% chance of staying in a marriage more than 10 years. Okay, that's pretty statistically significant. If you want to say, well, it's not 17, that's too high. Okay, then just say it's 30% chance of staying in a marriage. That's still more than one standard deviation.
What I want to say is this: I don't want to get bogged down by the details. I don't want to go into one study or another study because, like I said earlier, I can find one study to support something that I'm saying. I could find one study to support what you're saying. What I'm saying, this is consider the source and question the facts. Okay. I don't think Tinder is a reliable source to pull facts like this from. One, because it is self-reporting, anonymous or not, and two, here's a really, really important one. It's not necessarily how things play out. Okay, just because they're reporting that, yes, I would go out with this guy doesn't mean they actually do. Yes, I would like a woman that looks like this doesn't mean they actually do.
Oh, sure.
There are factors that is why you need to question it.
But the reason, the purpose of using that stat is to say, what do women inherently find attractive?
That's fair enough. And see, I don't actually disagree with that point, okay? I don't actually disagree that there's value and validity in what they're reporting.
Yeah.
I don't question that. But is it how things actually play out? Because I will tell you, here's a good example, okay? Here's a good example. So I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I work with couples, relationships all the time, right? I will have a guy come to me that says, I don't want to date a girl with kids.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what he would report on that self-report. That's what that Tinder stat
And I'll
would say.
tell you, there's two huge red pill guys who are saying the same thing, and they're both dating girls with kids.
Boom.
Of course.
Boom. Okay. This is why those stats should be questioned. Because if I was pulling a Tinder report, okay, it would say, I don't want a girl with kids. And then that goes into the self-report. And then this is what red pill pushes out, right? But then I get those people in my office, okay, and they're dating the girl with the kids.
Sure, of course.
Okay. That's why you question the stats.
But so that also, when you deal with that also has to do with men like saying that they have certain boundaries when they don't have them. Because men generally...
Well, men lie.
Well, it's not just
not necessarily.
It's not that men lie. It's like this. You say, I would not eat pickles until you're starving. Then you're going to eat whatever the fuck's in front of you. And if 26% of men under the age of 30 are virgins, they have no sex at all. And something like we're getting into the mid 30s of men who have had zero sexual partners in the last year, and they're like, I won't date a woman with kids. Motherfucker, they'll date anything with anything. They'll date a woman who used to be a man at this point. Like, that's what we're getting to. So that's why what you're saying is it's not comparable. But with the whole Tinder, Bumble, Hinge thing is
what
just...
I'm saying is 100% comparable. It's absolutely comparable.
What do you mean?
Like, are you saying that the example that I gave doesn't make sense?
No, it makes sense. What I'm saying is what will happen is those are outliers. And if what'll happen is if it was 50-50, then you can make your argument. But because it's 80-20, even if I'm 20% wrong, I'm still pretty right. That's the reason. It's 83% is 1.5, or 84% is 1.5 standard deviations. We're like talking about 1.25 standard deviations when we're talking about that number of men found unattractive. That's way outside the norm. So what my point is, even if I'm wrong, even if I'm 50% wrong, I'm still right because most women find most men unattractive. That's the whole point.
Well,
and that's still valid.
It is, and I've actually agreed with you on that. Okay, what I'm trying to show is a different side, how things actually play out, and why you should actually question these things.
Question everything. But
we'll put a pin in this one.
Okay.
How about that?
But like another one that like pisses people off. Dr. Buss came up with this one, and I agree. Like the thing is, one more time, I'm going to blame men first so that I can blame women second. Men are more likely to cheat. Are men more likely to cheat if they've had a lot of sexual partners or a few? Actually, that doesn't matter. It matters about whether or not they want to cheat. And what we find is it's about the same. If they've had a lot of sexual partners.
How do you know that?
Huh?
How do you know that?
Because they'll do studies on this, and they'll say, are you more likely to cheat? So what the difference is, do men have more sexual partners? Are they more likely to cheat? Yes. So if you're the drummer for Metallica and then you get married, you just have more options to cheat. If you're an assistant manager at Walmart who lives in Des Moines, Iowa, and then all of a sudden you get married, you don't have as many options to cheat. So men cheating or not cheating isn't really it isn't a reliable statistic, whereas women it is. If women want sex, sex manifests. Both of you agree to this, right? If you want it, Lana, if you want sex tonight, sex just manifests. Am I wrong?
Yes.
You go out anywhere. So for men, it's not just do they cheat, it's like can they cheat? So most men can't cheat because most men are not, like I said, 80% of men are deemed unattractive. So that's why the stat doesn't mean as much. But here's the opposite side to it. The number one the number one indication about whether or not a woman is going to cheat in a marriage, the number one correlation is how many sexual partners she had before she got married.
The number one correlation is actually not that. It's reporting dissatisfaction in her relationship.
No,
and know
beforehand.
that the number one reason why women cheat is because they're not happy in the home and because they're doing a double workload.
For sure. We're talking about two different things.
That's why.
You're talking about,
I
we're talking about two different things. I think you're talking about filing for divorce. That's a different thing. When I'm talking about women who cheat.
I'm talking about cheating.
Yes.
I'm not talking about filing for
cool.
divorce. I am literally saying I pulled up that stat. I don't actually have it on me, but Google it.
Okay. So what you're saying is a reason in the marriage, and what I'm saying is a correlation to the marriage. The number one correlation about whether or not a woman is going to cheat in a relationship is how many sexual partners she had before the marriage.
No.
Wait, are we just playing word games at this point? What does that mean?
Okay. Dr. David Buss, in his book, the 6th edition of the Evolution of Desire, he goes over what are the correlations on why people cheat in a marriage, and the number one correlation is how many sexual partners they
So
had
what's the
before they got
difference
married.
between using the word correlation versus me saying reason?
So a reason, what you're saying, because the reason you're saying
I said the number one reason.
Right, because that's actually self-reporting. A woman is saying that the reason why she's divorcing a man, when people report why they get a divorce, they're always going to say, I'm right and they're wrong. Always. It almost never you're going to hear somebody blame themselves for why they're getting a divorce. They're always going to blame the other side. The correlation about number of previous sexual partners and the relation to that to marriage, that's a different situation. Women,
wouldn't that be a self-report as well?
It would, but the problem with that is but the problem with that is women are reporting higher than their normal body count, so I tend to believe them. If a woman comes to me and says, I've only been, like for instance, this whole thing with Nina Agdal, she's like, I've been with 5 dudes. No, you haven't. That's a lie.
Did she actually? I don't want to switch topics on you, but did she
Logan
actually say that? He said that,
Logan
right?
said that means Logan. That's what she told Logan.
Are you sure though, or is
we'll go over that in a
okay.
second. Well, my point is, Bilzerian had the best way of saying is, if I talk to a girl who's like, 30 years old, she's like, I've been with 3 dudes. Like, she could be lying, she could be telling the truth. If I talk to a girl who's 25 and she says she's been with 84 dudes, she's telling the truth. She's telling the truth. So if a girl comes in there and says, yeah, I've been with more than 20 dudes before I got married, she's probably not lying.
Well, look, you guys have a bias though. Like, in just the way that you frame that alone, there's a bias
women
because
have a bias.
you're maybe, but I'm pointing out yours right now because you used that example.
Yeah.
And so your bias is this. You're like, if she's got a higher body count, because my personal belief is that by this age she's going to have a higher body count.
It's not a personal
then
belief.
I will. Well, like
That
it is a
No,
belief.
it's a statistic.
That's a personal belief, though.
Oh, no. Personal belief is an opinion. It's a statistic. Like, the statistic shows when evolutionary psychology studies happen that women with higher body counts are more likely to cheat. That's what
Right, but
it doesn't mean they're all going to cheat.
The personal belief is this: if she reports higher, I'm more likely to believe her because of whatever the stat
Exactly.
says. Hold on. It's your personal belief based on whatever the stat is. So
Lana,
you are more likely going to believe somebody that reports higher based on the information, the knowledge, the skills
sounds great.
that you have.
Lana, how many women do you know that over-report how many sexual partners they have? Do you have a lot of female friends that have been with 10 dudes and say they've been with 50?
That's not what I'm asking.
No, it is the point.
It's not the point.
The point is you can't come up with a single woman who's ever done that.
Wait,
But
you're
you
talking
can't come
about
up with a man that actually tells the truth about his sexual
Correct. No,
partner.
Lana, that's exactly my point. Men lie up, women lie down.
No, they don't.
So look, I'm actually
No.
Men do not lie and increase their number of sexual partners.
thing is-
Really, Lana? Remember, we're recording this. You think men do not lie and say they've had sex with more women than they have, and that women say that they've had sex with fewer? Because they do. You have to know that.
Oh my God. Can I talk?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My point is, men lie, women lie.
Yes, in opposite directions. Correct.
It doesn't matter which direction.
Well, it does for this study. It's exactly what it was.
Because either way, whether men are lying or women are lying, there's still a lie. And either way, no one's gonna care about what the fuck, like no one's gonna sit there and actually care about the sexual partners because everybody's gonna lie. So if a woman says, I've had sex with 87 people, the only reason why you believe her is because you want to believe negative, not positive.
No,
exactly.
No,
I believe
hang on.
her.
It's
No,
true.
because you're
It's not negative. It's not. It's believe
I
her.
let you speak, motherfucker. Damn.
It's not believe.
Hang on. No, that is a belief because you just said right now that you would believe a woman says that she had sex with 87 people. If she's 25, she's telling the truth. But
Yeah.
if she's in her 30s and she says she only has sex with 3, That's not true.
No, I didn't say
That's
it's not true. I said that she could be telling the truth or could not be telling the truth.
You're
But
more
if-
likely, the bias is that you are more likely, you and Dan Bilzerian
Mm-hmm.
are more likely to believe that if a woman reports a higher body count, that she's being honest.
Yes.
That's the
Right.
belief. Right. That's
Right.
the belief.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, like, that is a bias in how you're reporting this.
Correct, but then what you do is you examine the bias with the scientific
Fair
method.
enough. Look, we went off on a tangent. All I'm pointing out are little discrepancies and little biases, and you can do what you want with
there is
them.
no statistics that don't have biases, but you can't without
So
statistics.
what is your argument without a statistic? Because all you do is
Then-
argue
then
statistics.
then it's anecdotal. Like you say, well, what is the bias without statistics? Without statistics, there is no Johannes Kepler.
But
Without
statistics are not
there-
100% fact.
No. But statistics
Statistics are not fact.
Right, but the
statistics are not fact.
Okay, Lana,
Statistics are not
Lana, you're
fact.
not winning the argument by repeating yourself. One of the problems
I
is
kinda am.
if you don't have science that builds on other science, then you don't have James Clerk Maxwell and then Albert Einstein. You don't have a Johannes Kepler and then Isaac Newton.
Okay, so in
You
this
have-
case,
you have to
the statistics in this room, one person believes one thing and two people believe in other things, which means our statistic is
No,
correct.
so you would need what's
That's
called,
a study right
what's
there.
called-
No, that's a
it's not-
study.
It's not a study. So
That is a study.
Lana, central limit theorem.
That
it
is
means-
a study.
Okay,
Think about it.
So I'm going to explain to you. Central limit theorem in statistics means as n approaches infinity, you start to receive a normal distribution.
Dummy it down
There-
for people who don't understand like
so
me.
as you get more, if you get more data points in a study, you're going to start seeing a normal distribution. And the normal distribution is going to give you a more indicative understanding of what people believe and what people want. There's no way to say, we're just not going to go off statistics.
So then
Otherwise,
how can you do a study of
economics.
100 people when you have 8 billion now people in the
It's
world?
not 100. Like when we.
Then what is it?
Then it goes back to what I said about Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge. That's like 40 million people.
Well, look,
40 million out of 8 billion.
Still, but that's still
that's still a small statistic.
Lana, no one
so a statistic is not a fact.
Lana, no one watching this is going to say, well, 40 million people is not a statistically viable source of people to data points.
It's
No
not.
one's going to. No one who has any.
Me?
No one who has.
I just did.
Lana, no one who has any education in data science is going to agree with you. No one.
So what I'm gonna do
No one.
is here's what I like. I appreciate you weighing in, Lana, and your feedback on that. So thank you. Look, what I want to do is I've pointed out the vulnerabilities and some of the things that you're saying, and the audience can pick it up, do
Sure.
what they want with it. You've presented your case. I've presented mine.
Yeah.
Lana's weighed in, and obviously we differ in this, and we'll put a pin in it for now.
Yeah.
I want to get to some other things, okay? Because I was really interested in the Logan Paul thing that you,
Sure.
because you kind of talked to me about, you're like, take a look at this, and I didn't even know that they were two different people, actually.
Logan and Jake.
I did not
you're
know.
not the only-
I didn't know that there were
You're not
two
the
of
only
them.
person.
I thought it was just one. But we were just kind of referencing, body count a little bit ago.
Yeah.
You sent me a video earlier today of he was saying that she's only been with 5 people or something like that.
So the video he goes, she's only been in long-term relationships, and how many? And then the question was, do you remember they are engaged to be married? They've had this discussion. Do you know everyone she's been with? And he goes, it's only been like 5. There are pictures of her being groped and kissed by more than 80.
Wasn't Dylan? Is it Dylan Dennis?
Yeah.
So he was kind of smearing her.
He is currently smearing her,
Yeah,
and she filed a
restraining order,
restraining order
right?
4 days ago, and then also is pressing charges against him.
Because he was like, I mean, is this like revenge porn? That's
No.
kind of what
Revenge porn would indicate nudity or a sexual act. Those were
I
public.
thought he
those
did
were public
post.
images.
I thought he did post a nude picture.
No, those
of
are
her.
public. Those are public images. Everything he posted was a public image. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's going to lose the case. The problem is in the interim, if they can figure out, like personally, I think that Logan is more distraught than he's giving out, and this is a way for him to get out of this fight. I personally think that's what's going on. If Dylan Dennis ends up getting arrested, then he has an out.
Do you think he's like worried about losing to him?
I don't think winning or losing. He's clearly taking roids right now, so I think he's really, really, really doesn't want to. Have you seen the pictures of him recently?
Yeah.
Like he's clearly. And the problem is taking steroids for a boxing match is a bad idea because your red blood cell count goes up so much and your cardiovascular system hurts. But he's clearly roiding up. Like it's very, very obvious. He doesn't want to lose this fight. And so in the situation, I don't care about who wins the fight, and I really don't care about Dylan Dennis at all. Although he did share one of my posts recently, it was really crazy. The issue that I have is that, and by the way, I don't care if a guy wants to have get married to a woman with a high body count, go for it. If a guy came up to me and said, hey, Michael, I heard your messages about this whole thing, and I married a woman who'd been with like 200 dudes. She used to do porn, or she used to be an escort at fucking Bunny Ranch or whatever. And he goes, I've been married for 10 years. We have 3 kids, and it was the greatest decision of my life. I'd be like, bro, that's awesome. I'm very happy for you. I've never said you can't marry a woman who doesn't have a high body count. What I am telling you, though, is she is statistically more likely to divorce you. That is the truth. You can't just ignore that happens. That also means that there's a 17% chance she isn't going to divorce you, but there's an 83% chance she probably is. And so what I was saying before is I don't really have a problem with him being with a woman who's been with that many dudes. I have a problem with her lying to him and then him lying to me, because he says in one of the videos, he goes, you guys can have any opinion you want about me. You can say whatever you want about me. And he put the engagement on YouTube. Did he put the engagement on YouTube so I would ignore it? Did he put the engagement on YouTube so that he wouldn't get more engagement? And does he use his engagement for his living? Yes or no? It's obvious he does. He made it fair game. If he had kept the whole thing private.
Wait, what do you mean he made what fair game?
So what happens is he goes to, I think he's in France, and he gets down on a knee.
I think they were in like Como or something like that,
yeah.
And he proposed to her. I did watch it.
Totally
I saw
fine.
it.
I don't have an issue with it.
But that doesn't, like, how does that warrant the harassment? And
No. What happens afterwards is then she goes off and says, hey, I just want to let you know there were things that you were doing, Logan, that made me feel uncomfortable. I was like,
oh wait, she said that?
Yeah, I was like, that's fucking rich. And then later on, he goes, yeah, one of the things I really appreciated about you is how long you made me wait to have sex with you. There's another video of basically, what's his face, Diplo basically admitting he fucked her the night he met her. Bilzerian apparently has had sex with her. Like there's Adam Sosnick has 3 friends who fucked her. Like it's ridiculous. Like the numbers are, it's not you told me you slept with 5 dudes and you slept with 12. It's you told me you slept with 5 dudes and you slept with 120. That's where we are. And the problem is, like, this is none of my business until he gets on my fucking TikTok and is lying to me. That's where I have an issue. I think it sets a bad example. I think it's one of these situations where this woman is extremely calibrated in what she's doing, and she got to the final boss, Bowser, at the end of Super Mario Brothers, and she got this dude to put a ring on it, and he's been fooled. And this wouldn't be the first time he's been fooled, because he did the same thing with CryptoZoo. He did no due diligence. He ends up defrauding a bunch of fucking people because he fell in with a fucking scam, and that's what happened. Same thing. He walks into a fucking forest in Japan. There's a hanging body up there that had just committed suicide. He shows it on his YouTube.
I know. I
the guy,
saw that.
He doesn't do
horrible.
my point is he doesn't do due diligence, and because he doesn't do due diligence, he gets himself put into these situations. Good luck to Nina Agdal. That's fine. It's just my point is I refuse to believe that he goes into this realizing how much he's being lied to.
I think it's really sad that her sexual history and body count is even up for grabs. And the public gets to weigh in on it.
Then he shouldn't bring it up in a podcast and say she's only been with 5 dudes. And then the problem is in her situation, the issue is this.
Well, I don't think that that's actually, like, I haven't watched the whole interview that you sent me. I just saw that one little clip. I don't actually know if that was reflective of what he was trying to say. To me, that seemed more of like a reactive, oh, she's only been with 5 dudes. I can't make the assumption that is what she actually told him based on that clip.
Maybe it's not, but the
way that read to me was something whimsical. It was a one-off, and I can't look at something like that in a moment and make the assumption that she was lying to him about all her sexual partners.
Then she's lying. Then he's lying to Cope to me. That's the problem. He's lying to Cope to the audience. And he told us to watch. He not only did he tell us to watch, he goes, you guys have the wrong opinions about me. You don't know me. You don't know Nina. And I was like, bro, you don't know Nina. That's the first problem. And secondly, the other issue is then at the very end, he goes, well, no, you can still talk about me, because he knows that is his income. His income is you talking about him. And so my only issue with this is I don't have a problem. The deal with the sexual past is not the problem. For me, for some guys it is. The problem for me is the lying. So it's one of these situations where you and I are getting married, and I was like, listen, before we go, I would like to know what your dating or relationship past is, and you tell me, whatever it is, you've been married or whatever. And then at the end, I find out that you've been doing hardcore studio porn for 5 years and just completely forgot to tell me that. Now we're lying. Do you understand? But the thing is, hardcore studio porn, you wouldn't fuck as many guys as fucking Nina Agdal did. And that's what I have a problem with. It's like, it's 3 orders of magnitude of lying. That's what I have a problem with. And then the other issue is, in his situation with Logan Paul, and this is why I tell guys this all the time, when you become that successful, and I'm not as successful as him, obviously, but I tell my business partners, when I fuck up, you tell me I fuck up. The emperor, no one wants to tell the emperor he has no clothes on. I have several friends that are billionaires. I have several friends that are very, very popular, and I see the guys that they hang out with, and often I can quickly tell these are yes men. These people are not going to tell you the truth. And Logan had that similar situation going on. Like, for instance, he made a comment about Andrew Tate one time, and it was like, it's fine if you don't like Andrew Tate or if you do like Andrew Tate. That wasn't the point. The point was when he's giving the comment, it's like this. and Andrew Tate is a misogynist. And you can see him looking down. He's clearly reading what his PR person or his attorney told him to read. And now that Andrew Tate's out of jail, you'll see Logan Paul saying nice things about Andrew Tate. He doesn't have his own opinion because he's surrounded by people who tell him what to think and what to do. So he did not have the wherewithal to do the research for Crypto Zoo, for when he's making YouTube videos, and now for this relationship that he's in. To me, that is a huge warning and a red flag and something men need to look out for. I don't hate Logan Paul, and he's been nice to me. I met him twice. He's been nothing but a gentleman, and I certainly don't hate Nina Agdal. My point is, at some point there was maybe they never talked about body count. Maybe that's an option also. But I have a problem with this idea that like it's okay for her to just lie and we're not supposed to care. Because I can show you it's statistically significant if a woman has been with that many dudes.
I don't think it's anybody's business, to be honest with you. I don't think it's anybody's business. No, I don't. Hold on. I want to say something back. I don't think it's anybody's business how many sexual partners she's had. Now, if she wants, and I don't actually, like the way that I read that, I don't think that he's actually introducing that to the public to weigh in on either.
100%,
I don't.
100% he is. I'll show you he is.
So. Okay, well, if he is, show me. If he is, then go ahead and show me.
She's only been with 5 dudes, and you can talk about my relationship. And I got engaged on YouTube so that you could watch it.
We're 100%. Connecting a lot of like loose ends here. I don't know if you can really say like just because he got proposed does not mean that he's giving consent or permission to talk about his wife's sexual partners or past. You can't make that connection.
Of course, but like if I commit a felony, I'm not giving you the idea or the permission to talk about my felony. But if we get into it, then you can still talk about my felony because I'm a public figure. That's the way it works. You say, dude, he has a right.
I understand. What I'm trying to say is I don't necessarily think that he's giving the permission. Okay, and I understand that because he's a public figure,
they're both public figures.
People want to weigh in on that or whatever. But I don't actually. The way that you presented that earlier was he said this, and you made an assumption that they somehow had a conversation about it.
Let's do the opposite. The thing with Tom Brady and his wife, right? I never made a comment about the sexual partners of Giselle. You want to know why? Because Tom Brady never told me Giselle hadn't been with anyone, and Giselle had never told me anything like that. And they don't go out and try to publicly display or ask people to converse about their relationship. These 2 social media influencers do. That's where this is different, and I'm being lied to, and that's why I have an issue with it.
Do you think that they're like, so you're saying that Tom and Giselle like to keep things more private, therefore you're not going to weigh on it because of that?
Because they're not. I know it's because they're not asking me to. And as much as you like, here's the problem. Logan Paul loves that you and I are talking about this right now, but he doesn't love that we're talking about him in a negative way. And it's one of these situations where it's like, hey, as long as they're talking about, there was this rumor forever that Tom Cruise was gay. I've heard this a million times. Tom Cruise doesn't give a fuck. He's like, you're talking about me more. That's totally fine. I don't really, New Kids on the Block. You remember New Kids on the Block?
Yeah.
Everyone was like, oh, these guys are homos, whatever. Like, but they were selling albums. They didn't give a shit. Yeah. Women were lining up to have sex with him. You think that Marky Mark gave a fuck about people saying, no, of course not. It's fine because we gave you permission. The problem in this situation is Logan wants us to talk about him. And then when it's not flattering, then we're not supposed to talk about him. That's hypocritical to me. That's the issue, right? Same situation for me.
Look, I can see under that premise why that would be hypocritical.
Yeah.
If it actually is that. I'm not 100% sure that it would be. I'm not very familiar with it, to be
so
quite
they do
honest.
Podcasts together, and then
I saw that they did one, right, where they're talking, but they were talking about their engagement.
Yes, and then the engagement was also public. Like they filmed the engagement.
Fair enough, but does that just mean that her sexual history and past is a free for all?
Again, you're saying it's not a free for all because it's bad, and my point is it doesn't make any difference if it's good or bad.
No, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that because it's bad or they're speaking negatively. I'm saying that because I don't think that necessarily warrants that kind of. I don't think.
Well, I'm not Dylan Dennis, so I agree. So like, here's the thing: for the first 20 things that he posted, I was like, this is probably out of bounds. He probably shouldn't be doing this. Once we got to 80, I'm like, oh, wait a second. She is really lying here. Like, this is really embarrassing. And then the problem after that is that if Logan had kept his mouth shut, I would have been fine with it. That's not what happened. Is that when Logan was clearly shown to be a fool, then he goes out later and says, no, she's been with 5 dudes. At that point, I'm like, bro, this is ridiculous. Like, and the other reason why it makes it a little different for me is I don't want to publicly embarrass Logan Paul. Nobody gives a fuck what I think. The point is I coach men's performance thing, and I would highly recommend men do not get put in a situation like this. I do think it is important to know the history, both partners, to know the history of the other partner, because it can be indicative of what happens in the future. You may not say it's the case with, say, body count, but you would say the next fucking girl who ends up with your ex who was a narcissist, that's a piece of information she should probably fucking know, right? So these things.
I think I kind of see where you're going with that. Yeah, I can see some value in that for sure. Like I think what I would weigh more heavily was I would look at things, not necessarily body count, but I would look at are they trustworthy? Like did they cheat in the relationship? Did they have like how do they get along with their ex? Like those kinds of things.
But how about this? Like her
more
making him wait, but not making Leonardo DiCaprio wait or Diplo wait or Dylan Francis wait or make. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but you made Logan Paul wait. To me, that is not a thing where I'm saving up because he's my special snowflake.
Well, no, but
to me, that's manipulation. That's just manipulation.
But what if she's actually had growth and change?
If she had growth and change, it's been the last couple months because she was fucking around with these dudes like right before she got with him. So maybe there is growth and change. My point is like he still has the right to know, and even when he knows,
you think he has the right to know about her sexual past?
Here's the thing with Lena the Plug and Adam 22, because Adam 22 said I am totally fine with my wife.
Are they porn stars?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But the point is they get married, and right after they'd been having a bunch of threesomes together with women. They were polygynous on camera. Lena had never been with another guy on camera. She hadn't been with another guy in 7 years.
Okay.
For their wedding gift, Adam allowed her to fuck Jason Love, male porn star, and they filmed it, and it is, as of right now, the most lucrative OnlyFans video in the history of OnlyFans. I mean, we're exceeding like 20 million, 30 million in revenue. And after it happened, then he was saying things like, I feel uncomfortable about this. I wish that I hadn't let her have sex with this dude, and I feel bad about it. I don't have any problem. And in fact, I'm not even criticizing Adam 22 because he allowed her to do it, and she was honest about it. So because everyone is honest and everyone's telling the truth, Destiny is bisexual. Destiny is openly bisexual and allows his wife, Melina, to have sex with other men, and Melina allows him to have sex with other women. Because they're open about it, I don't have any problem with that. My problem was once these things were discovered, if he had come out and be like, yeah, she has a past, she's been with a lot of people, but we're different now, she's grown, I've grown, and we're moving on to a new place, I would have shut the fuck up. But that's not what he did. That's not what he did, Jamie. He fucking lied. He fucking lied. And that's what I have a problem with.
I get the lying, and I
and if he wasn't Logan Paul, it wouldn't be anybody's business. But he made it our business. He deliberately. You don't get to have it both ways, bro. You don't get to sit there.
I don't know. I don't know. Okay, if I would say that if he made that everybody's business. Now, obviously, there are elements of his life and her life that they felt comfortable sharing. That doesn't mean that everybody is entitled to every little thing about them.
Yeah, but it's one of these things where, like, when the guy FTX, or no, the guy who's doing Billy McFarland, he's doing another Fire Festival.
I don't even know who Billy McFarland is.
Okay, Billy McFarland did. Billy McFarland threw the Fire Festival. You remember the Fire Festival? Huge scam, $90 million scam.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So there's Fire Festival 2 coming out.
Yes.
Billy McFarland is looking for investors to do it. Billy McFarland's clearly he's clearly a sociopath. And when you watch him do it, you can see the sociopath. Like, that's clearly sociopath.
I watched that documentary.
Yeah, but my point is, it is relevant that he defrauded all these people previously. It is our business. I'm sorry. I don't care what you think. It is. And by the way, you also can know that and still invest in the new Fire Festival. I'm very interested to see how this whole thing goes.
Look, I think that there are some things that, yes, you'd want to know. But just because he went open and public with aspects of their relationship.
Yeah, but you're missing my point. When Billy McFarland does an interview, he doesn't want you to know that he defrauded all those people before. Just because there's aspects of his previous business interactions he doesn't want you to know about doesn't mean you're not allowed to talk about him. He fucked up, and that's what happens.
I'm not saying that the public isn't allowed to do what they do.
Yes.
I'm not saying that or making that connection at all. What I'm saying is that I'm not sure that that's something that he's introduced. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not sure that he's saying, yeah, it's a free for all. Go ahead and talk about it.
Okay, no. So my next question was: you have a brother or a male cousin, and all of a sudden he's about to get married, and then upon the marriage, you find out that the woman that he's going to marry has severely lied to him and underrepresented herself with the number of sexual partners she has. That wouldn't set off any alarm bells to you at all?
If we're just talking about how many dudes she's been with, no, it really wouldn't. And I'll tell you why. Like, to me, that doesn't, I don't really think that that's.
No, she told him 5, it turns out to be 100, and she lied about it. You don't think that's a problem?
I think I could see where that would be a little like, I would want to know more about it, and I would want to know what I would measure it based on my interaction going forward.
What is she so lacking that she needed that much attention?
Not necessarily. This is where you guys get it wrong. It's not necessarily her needing attention. Like, there's other things at play. I mean, validate. Like, and look, I actually agree with a lot of red pill stuff when it comes to this, because a lot, like, validation is a big thing, and you've got these pick me people and all that, right? So I'm with you when it comes to stuff like that, but you're making an assumption that that's why that's happening. Sometimes,
let's say it's healthy. Let's say her necessity to have multiple sexual partners totally comes from a healthy place. She just really enjoys sex. She's a fitness model, and she has high testosterone, and she loves sex.
I think in general,
that's still more likely that she's still more likely to cheat on me. She's still more likely to leave me.
That's actually not the number one reason why, and we kind of went over that earlier. That is not the number one reason why. It's like if you're a good partner and a good husband, she's probably going to be more faithful to you. And could it influence fidelity? Yes, it could influence. Don't want to knock that, Kay, but it's not the number one thing.
No, what you're talking about are reasons in the marriage, and what I'm saying is a correlation to the marriage.
They sound like the same thing to me.
No, a reason in the marriage is happening in present tense. A correlation to the marriage happened in the past tense.
Okay,
That's why I'm saying it's different. It is different.
Okay.
And the problem is what you're saying again is like, you're saying it's the number one reason, but again,
it is the number one reason.
It's the number one reason they're reporting. And my point is, and we go back to the original thing before, I refuse to believe that women are sleeping with 20 dudes and reporting 30. I refuse to fucking believe that, and no one is going to disagree with me on that.
I don't think Lana or I would disagree with you on
so
that.
the point is when a woman says she's been with more than 20 and 17% of the time she's saying in marriage.
Now we're like, we didn't disagree with you on that. What I was highlighting was your belief and how that influenced what you would believe about a woman. Your bias was that if she reports a high number, more believable because of a bias that you have.
Sure. I don't know if it's a bias though.
It is a bias. Yeah, it is a bias because you said if she's this old and she's reporting higher numbers, I'm more likely to believe her.
They can both be 25. If I have a girl who's 25, she says she's been with 5 dudes, she might be telling the truth, she might not be telling the truth. But if a girl tells me, if she's 25 years old, she's like, I've been with 65 dudes, I have a hard time not believing her. I have a hard time believing her. I have a hard time believing that she says she's been with 65 and she's actually been with 85.
Yeah, no, I think we both agree with you on that. That wasn't our point. Right, the point was the bias and the belief system that I was highlighting.
Yeah, well, there are studies that show that men overrepresent how many sexual partners they have and women underrepresent. So that wouldn't be a bias. There'd actually be statistical significance to that. What's going on?
Oh, we're at time already.
Okay, so the point I'm trying to make is like nobody like, okay, I'm gonna get in trouble. I love you, honey, my girlfriend. Slutty women are fucking awesome. They're great. I have so many positive interactions throughout my life with women who have been with lots of dudes. I don't give a fuck. And I'm not even saying having sex with them. I have as a show, some of the girls on my show, they're porn stars. They're the funnest, most fucking fun people I've ever had. I've had half a dozen porn stars on my podcast. I am not judging them for who they are as people, number one. Number two, if a woman does heart surgery on one of my family members and she does a heart transplant and saves my daughter or my niece's life, that woman has incredible value to the world. But that value to the world has nothing to do with her sexual attractiveness or whether or not someone should date her. Those are two different things. Her personal self-worth or her self-worth or her worth to the planet and her sexual market value are two completely different things. That's this point I want to make. But I am saying that there is a statistically significant correlation to if she has been with a lot of dudes, then when she may get married, she may continue to want to be with a lot of dudes. And that's the point. That's the only point I'm trying to make. She's not wrong for that. Go ahead.
Why don't you cheat on your girlfriend?
Because I love her. She's great. And also we have sex with women together. So that's part of the reason why.
So that doesn't, just because you have sex with women together doesn't mean you don't want to have sex with women outside of her.
For sure. But the difference is this, right? So my integrity.
Have you ever cheated on your girlfriend?
No. My integrity.
Why won't you?
Because well, I get everything I need. It's terrific. My relationship's awesome.
I think, and this kind of attests to some of the stuff that I talk about on Pink Pill. Okay. Because I think men do value relationships.
Yes.
I think it's not just all about looks and attraction,
sure.
even though I know that that's important. It's important to women.
It can start that way.
Yeah, and I know that's important, but I think women really do look for a lot of value in women outside of sexual attractiveness, outside of your body count, outside of how many partners you have.
Sure.
And one thing that I want my viewers to consider is this. It's possible that he really just loves her and gives a fuck about her body count.
No, I totally agree that may be the case.
And that's most likely probably the case.
But what I want to say is he loves her in spite of the fact that she may have a body count. And he wasn't informed about it.
So right, which means love really kind of, that's the ruler of the day.
Do you know your girlfriend's body count?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you believe her?
Yeah, I do.
Why?
Because she was 20 when I met her. That's why.
So?
Yeah, no, I mean, is there
I've been having sex since I was 15.
Is there a possibility she's lying? There's a possibility I'm lying too. Yeah, for sure. There's a possibility my name isn't really Michael Sartain.
So
there is a possibility.
Why don't you have a bias just because you're in love?
What do you mean have a bias?
You don't have a bias to her just because you're in love.
I knew what her body count was before I fell in love with her, though.
But you believe her, and according to what we said earlier, if you're in your 30s and you have 60, you believe the negative over believing what a woman has a lower body count.
If your argument is it's more likely she could not be telling the truth because she told me a number so low as opposed to telling me a high number, you're correct.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I have talked to her family. I have a pretty clear understanding. Again, you're right. She could be lying, but I have a pretty clear understanding of what her dating history was.
How though?
Because she's gone through every single one of them.
What's her body count?
I'm not telling that. You could have Kylie on here.
You're a public figure.
No, but
Lana, I see where you're going with this.
but
you're a public figure. I think we're allowed to know what Kylie's body count is.
But number one, she isn't, and number two, I didn't tell you what the number is for you to contradict it. That's the difference.
But that's why we're talking about it.
Yes. And if you want to go on there and pull up evidence of her having sex with more people,
I don't give a fuck about your girlfriend like that.
But the problem is,
it was just an example.
But my point is, the evidence doesn't exist because maybe because she did or she doesn't. But the thing with Nina Agdal is the evidence did exist and she acted like it didn't. That's the difference. That's where I don't really care. The body count actually isn't the issue. Someone is going to marry Nina Agdal. To me, she's extremely she's extremely mid to me. But like to other people, they really like that gaunt, sort of like masculine looking, like female model look, whatever she has. Right. Some people like that shit. Someone's going to marry her, even if it isn't Logan Paul. I don't think they're going to marry. If I was going to make a bet, someone's going to end up marrying her. And when they do, if they're comfortable with what she had going on, that's totally fine. And if they're happy, that's totally fine. And maybe that's the equilibrium she needs. She needs someone who is totally accepting of the fact that she's been with multiple people. But in order for her to get that, she needs to be honest about it.
So wait, is it a possibility for people to love a girl with a high body count?
Of course, absolutely. I
then
know.
What the fuck is the point of your podcast?
The point is because it's statistically unlikely, even though it's possible.
Here's what I want to do, guys, because we are at time and I want to be respectful of everybody's time here. Okay, what I want to say is this. I think if we were to do like a stat of that, statistically, it's going to say that men prefer women with a lower body count, right? That's what would be reported. Sure. However, to my point earlier, that's not necessarily how things play out. And things like totally love, relationships, those things change the game. So ladies with high body counts, you can find love. It's out there for you. And when
Michael said it.
Michael said it.
No. Now, here's my point. You're going to find love because most dudes don't fuck anyone. That's my point. It doesn't make it
or care.
You could be,
or care about your body.
My point is, you could be overweight and have a high body count, terrible fucking credit, and be a terrible person, and dudes will marry you. That's my point. That is my point.
Yes.
Well, look, guys, like today we definitely had some heated discussions today, but
I can't wait till my girlfriend to see this and be like, I agree with Jamie and Lana. Fuck you, Michael.
But Michael, I always appreciate your time, and I appreciate you. You know, I know this might have felt like you were on the hot seat today a little bit, but I very much have respect for you, and I appreciate you being here. And thank you also for weighing in, Lana. I appreciate you being here.
And let's get you two on Access Vegas to go out. Go out Rolo. Let's go out Rolo.
Until next time, guys. Bleh, bleh, bleh. Can I say that? Can we cut that out?
Yes.
Actually, we might just put that in the bloopers. I don't know.
Until next time, if your girl is from the streets, she can still find love.
Damn.
All right,
just
guys.
not from you.
Bye.